We've invited J. Garbrah to sit in on this panel with us, at least for this topic, and it's to do with the children who died on their way back from school, that disaster at Faanaa. Jay, you've covered this story for 2 days. I think this is the third day, is it, that you followed on what happened on Wednesday?
Yes, so it happened on Wednesday, and then, well, it does feel like 2 days because yesterday it was like the whole day was captured by the whole tragedy. So it does feel like that's how long it's been. But on Wednesday, when it happened, we had gone earlier to Botiano to cover a story about the collapsed church. So fortunately, the assembly member of the area had my number. So he called our audio man, and then the audio guy called me and said, this is what happened with the school children were coming back from school. There were 12 of them, and their way back home, that's when the boat capsized. As of yesterday, they had found all 8 bodies, but when we got there, they were still looking for the last person. That was an 8-year-old girl who was found while we were still over there. It was quite desolate, especially when the parents came, the father came to look at the body, identify it, and it was really, really sad. Yes. So I shared some videos where we arrived on the scene, and then you notice there are a lot of people on the estuary, and it's like that's where they usually cross from to their settlement on the other side. And you notice that that place is not really deep. Usually it's just a little shallow and all that. So some people who are as tall as me, you can just walk across to the other side. And for the kids who are paddling the canoe, it looks like, oh, it's something they usually do, and they are children of fishermen and such. So this distance doesn't look that big. So they just use the canoe and just go from one side to the other. The troubling fact is the fact that even as we got there in the morning, you notice people still using the canoe to cross, and we're still not using life jackets. So it's like people were just clamoring. And at this point, for those there, it's like you see the MP and the MCE there, as well as residents of the area. And in the background, there were a lot of people who were still looking for the body. So you see just this distance from here to here. It doesn't seem that far, but yeah, but that's usually the crossing. And it's like in the morning, the tide has gone back, and I believe the moon has an effect on the tides. That's why when it comes in a high tide, the children, it took them by surprise. And when the boat capsized, the undercurrent, the undertow, that's when it took them off completely. So they were crossing from the estuary to that side. Their settlement is on the far area. For grown-ups who are more experienced with paddling canoes and all, they can paddle the canoe to the far end. But for the kids, they were just going the short distance. So you see, when they get down from the canoe, they have to walk all this way and then go to their settlement at the far back. And you see the more experienced people in that canoe who have paddled a further distance than the kids would have. And you notice that when they're using the pole, they just push off from the bottom. So it's not like there's anybody rowing with a paddle or anything like that. They just push off from the bottom. So you realize it's not that deep. There's something they can just paddle across. And there you see more of the canoes there because the settlement is a little over there. So they walk all this way to their settlement at the far side. So when they heard the news and all that, they were searching all these areas trying to find where exactly the last person may be. And because it was high tide, for some of them, the water had taken them into the shrubs and everything. So you notice that even with this shot, we haven't even gotten to the settlement yet. So this is quite a distance. So they were just going to cross from here, from the estuary to the other side, and then walk back all this way. It looks like quite beautiful scenery, but it was a site of a terrible tragedy. So this is what they usually do every day. And it's like a high tide. That's when the boats capsized and everything.
No life jackets.
No life jackets anywhere.
Even with the adults.
Oh, even with the adults. And that's a cause of concern for most people who have heard about the situation, because they have the opinion, why would they leave the kids to paddle the canoe?
So this is a regular
trip
for the people. Get on the canoe as you are, with no safety.
Yeah. Oh, and they
PPE
even
whatsoever.
offered to give us a ride from that the estuary to the settlement, and I was like, okay, where's the life jacket? And it was like,
They
well,
offered
like,
you a ride.
yeah,
So it
because
was just a crossing from where we are seeing the
yeah,
people
where we are
gathered
all
now.
gathered here to the settlement at the other side. So they closed from school from this side. And
How
then,
long a boat ride is it?
oh, it's not that long. If I didn't enter the boat, not because I was scared. There was no life jacket, so.
I mean, I would
To be scared is normal in this circumstance. To be
I
scared,
would be. If
it's a
something of this
natural
nature
response.
Yeah. So and besides, I've had a bad experience with the canoe. I was shooting a scene once, and somebody forgot to hold the rope, and the canoe left. It was terrible. Yeah. So
So
you see,
they would launch off from where we saw the people gathered,
Yes.
and they would make the journey we are seeing that
but
boat
you see,
making.
with this one, they are adults, so they are going much further than the kids would have. They would have branched earlier and then gotten down and then just walked quite a distance. But with these ones, they are grown ups, and so they are more used to it. They have more control, and then they can paddle much further than the kids. And it's like, I don't know, despite everything, they are still going about business as usual.
And life is going on, but it will not go on as smoothly for the parents of
Yes,
the children
yes.
who
And
whose
I can
lives
just,
were
I
lost.
can
Did
just.
did you meet any of them?
While they were searching for the body, I believe the one they found, the father was still in the settlement. So once he received the news his daughter had been found, that's when we saw him coming to where the estuary where we were, because you see that the number of canoes which were approaching the estuary. With this scene over here, that's when they brought the body to the shore, and then they alerted the father to come. And so you see them, all of us gathered here. At this point, the father is by the boat, by the canoe, and trying to identify his daughter. And so because of the surrounding people, they usually see it until we go overhead. And it was really a sad situation, because receiving that news, and it's a very quick one, so he just does it quickly. And if you can just go back a bit, you realize that even though it was quick, you will notice that within that short space of time, the fish and everything they had gotten to the girl. So it was quite. And it's like he saw it, and then he tried to be strong, but it's like you could see that he shook, and then it hit him again, and then finally he bent down, to identify her again. It's like you see at this point he's just desolate. He has seen it, and then he shakes, and then he now goes.
Yeah.
So now
I
he's
mean,
trying.
we have to maintain
He's now
respectful-
trying to and then now that's when people surrounded him and were trying to console him, to take heart and all that. He just can't believe it at this point. It's like, because he saw it the first time, he shook, and then it's like it hit him again, and then all of a sudden,
a parent's grief.
yeah, it's like his
Laid
8-year-old
bare
girl
for
is just gone. So at that point, it's like it was quite desolate.
And this girl was 8 years old.
Yes, she was. And then
The age range of the children in the boat at the time, is it true that there were no adults on the boat?
no, there were no adults.
So what was a 1.5-year-old baby doing on the boat? Was he or she also going to school?
Yes, she
A
was.
1.5-year-old baby.
Yes, you see, the drone pilot, Jerry Decker, he took the shot. And while he was taking it, some people were speaking to him because they could see the man who was desolate, and they were trying to console him. And therefore, what he told me was, with the 1.5-year-old, he didn't want to go to school. But that's when his mother had to go and sell and make some money. So she falls, and he was crying the whole day. He didn't want to.
Who was taking charge of this baby, this 1.5-year-old?
Now his sister.
A sibling?
Yes, sibling.
Who's how old?
I don't remember, but she's a little older than.
So who was in charge of the boat, Jay?
The 14-year-old, the girl.
A 14-year-old girl
Yeah, but she survived, so.
was in charge of the boat.
Yeah.
You wouldn't let a 14-year-old drive a car, would you?
No, I would not.
So, listen, there's a lot of blame to go around. So let's try and look at this from several angles. And I'm sure the ladies may also have some questions. Where do we put the failure? Is it the communities? Because I've heard the MP, when we posted the video on our social media handles, talking about, it's between, and they are more on this side of the constituency, and they are more on this side of the constituency. Whose responsibility is it to ensure that safe passage?
I'll just say the adults, because they are more in control. They can maneuver the boats, and the confidence the kids have. I think at this point, that's when overconfidence comes in, and the tragedy occurred. But if there were adults around to supervise everything, then it would have helped. And looking at the place, the MC was telling us from an engineering point of view, they are not able to build a bridge of that, so it won't be sustainable and such. But perhaps a footbridge, or as some people were suggesting, they build a campus on their side of the settlement to avoid this back and forth, because this is what they do all the time. And with the scenes we are seeing now, it's the dad was quite desolate, and then at some point, because they needed to perform some rites for the departed soul, they had to now take him away, and then they put him on the canoe, and you realize that he was just beat because he couldn't understand what had just happened. So they were trying to just pull him away and then take him to the other side, because he has heard this unfortunate news. And if you see the condition of the daughter, that's him going away, and you realize he's just totally devastated. It's terrible. And then family members have to console him. No parent should have to see their child die, and especially in this manner, to die by water. And then even as at that time, they were still not wearing life jackets as they were crossing.
15 children also died in similar circumstances in Nigeria just this week as well. Is there a sense among persons in the community that they've been left on their own? Do they feel taken care of? Do they feel listened to? Because it looks like any regular day for the people.
Yeah.
And this is what they do on a regular day. It's not out of character for little children, including a 1.5-year-old.
You can see in your shot somebody just walking. Yeah, so you realize the depth is not. It's just that it was high tide.
Yeah, if you're tall, it might not be. But if you're
young, if you're
younger,
younger,
if you don't have the benefit of height.
Yeah. So at this point, they are performing the rites so that they can finally take the deceased to the mortuary. And it was quite chaotic at this point, because they were trying to perform the rites, but people were not leaving the scene. We gave them some kind of privacy, but because we had a drone, we were able to get the shots. And I just want to say, Jerry Decker, thank you again. He couldn't come here this morning, but he was able. And so this is the part where they are done with the rites.
And this is where my heart broke, just watching them actually carrying the body in their hands.
Yeah.
And I was asking a colleague of mine, so was there no stretcher? Couldn't they place this young soul on a stretcher? And I saw a cameraman literally running after the group that was carrying the little girl into town, because it changed hands. The girl, someone else came and took her and then just carried her, and the roads were bad. Getting access to the place was even a challenge.
Yeah, you see, and that's the thing. You remember before I went there yesterday, the assembly member had managed to send me a video on Wednesday about the tragedy, some of the kids they had found, and you realized they were trying to revive them. And then that's, if you are able to watch the video, they were trying to revive them, and they didn't know how they should go about it. Because if you enter the community, you realize that their roads are quite terrible, and it hadn't rained. But you'd be surprised, there were a lot of puddles.
Puddles of water.
Puddles of water. I don't know
that
why.
You stepped through.
Yeah, and they were quite deep. So even when we got there, we had to park at quite a distance and then walk. And even with the big vehicles that came later, you realize that when they even enter, you hear a sound that maybe the undercarriage has hit the ground before it lifts off again. So with this kind of the lack of access to amenities.
What's the local assembly doing about the lack of access to amenities? There is a system in place. There is a local government structure that ensures that even the most deprived communities have some access to funds, to personnel who would make sure that their lives were better. When you spoke to the MCE, did he seem in any way hopeful that things would get better? 9 young lives have been lost. Yeah. What's he saying to the community?
We managed to interview him yesterday. I don't remember much of what he said, but he was also he was sharing his condolences with the family and trying to see the best way possible moving forward, how they can avoid all this. And for the citizens there, it's like for the residents there, most of them were just quite angry with the situation because some of them were mentioning the fact about how loyal they are, and yet
loyal to what?
They are local MP, and yet they haven't received that much development.
And the local MP is the MP for Wejagba constituency, who we saw you speaking to earlier.
Yeah, when I got there, she was there with the MC, and they were trying to assess the situation as well. At that point, everybody had found out about it and was trying to glean as much information as possible. And so it's like there was no hospital, the roads are terrible. And because they don't have access to vehicles to get there in order to transport the kids. So even those, the video I shared on Wednesday, even those kids they found, they were trying to revive. By the time they finally managed to get to the last stop and get a vehicle to go to the hospital, obviously they were declared dead when they arrived. Yeah.
Ladies, do you have any questions for Jay? I'm just blown away by everything that I saw. Our cameraman fainted. And this is one of our strong men.
Oh wow!
And it was a traumatic experience for him. So you can just only imagine what the parents must be going through. The whole community will be grieving at this time at Faanaa because nine children, including a girl who is a year and a half
That's the
old.
community, right?
Yeah, they were at this point they were carrying the one they just found to at the mortuary.
Is the mortuary close by?
No, it's not. No, it's not. So you realize they are walking quite a distance. At this point, I was running behind the cameraman. They are walking, but we are running. I don't know what they eat, but they are very strong. It's because the pace at which they were going, I was panting. I had to tell the cameraman, you know what, let's relax over
So
here.
the community has a mortuary?
Not that I know of. They are now going to find a vehicle and then they'll transport the body to the mortuary.
What does the community have? They don't have good roads. They don't have a school.
No,
they don't
the
have
school. The school is on this side.
Hospital.
The school is on this side where we are. Where the images you are seeing, that's where the school is. So they come to attend school here, and then they cross the
to where they live,
to the settlement where they live. We have shots of the settlement. It's like you realize with the settlement, for instance, they are not. Should I say? The structures are not built with blocks and all that because they are wooden structures and all. I believe I don't know if they are supposed to be there. I believe they are not. So they have not built permanent structures. At some point, I think they will just move from there if the water threatens to go invade their homes and such like that.
All over the world, there are settlements beside, places like this. Yeah. So we're seeing the bad state of the roads and the residents complaining there. But you see,
but I think what Jay is saying, Thelma, here is that these are not sanctioned settlements. So like saying he doesn't know whether they are supposed to be there. So maybe
who permitted them to build them?
And then when did the last building spring up? When did the first building spring up? When did the next? Before it became a community of close to 300 people.
Didn't people say, Jay, that they've lived there for years?
Oh yes, they have. Because it's like a small fishing community, they've allowed them to live, and then that's where they apply their livelihood and stuff like that. And so with the settlement, for instance, that we took a shot, like you see it in the far distance, you just realize that these are, I wouldn't say nomadic people, but like they have their community onto themselves. And then so the children will just get down from the boat. You see, this is the shot, and you realize there's no really that's the settlement. That's where the children were headed. So they would have crossed the shortest distance possible and then walked all the way. I don't know if the viewers are familiar with where GBC is, but it's like walking from here to perhaps Paloma or Circle. So it's like they are used to that kind of distance. So you realize that he's pulling out, so you see just how far they have
Isn't
to
that
walk.
about a kilometer? Where is Kafui when I need him? Because from
So
GBC to Paloma is about a kilometer long, right?
I'm not good with that kind of
Measurements is the problem. Our teachers never really taught us well. These measurements.
I just know it's a long distance.
No, but
it's a long distance.
if 14 children and some survived,
Yeah.
including the
one was
the
in
boat
the
pilot,
yeah.
the brave girl
Yeah.
to
And because
master courage
yeah.
to take these young charges along with her, and for this to happen, I'm sure she must be traumatized. Has there been any conversations about therapy, about people putting their mental health first? How are children who were not even involved in this accident coping with the loss of their colleagues who were making this journey that became quite perilous?
But there's something about life. No matter what happens, it goes on. We managed to take a shot of the school, and then even when we did, before we got there, we saw the headmistress. She was quite desolate, like she was weeping, and she had left the school premises. She was walking away. And even when you look on the school compound, it was a normal school day for the kids who were there. They were playing. It was weird. And so like their colleagues from this side who had come to the school and unfortunately weren't able to make it, and then it looked like a normal it's just so I don't know, in terms of safety, their mental health, I don't know if nobody had broken the news to them or they had gotten used to stuff like that. I don't know what
you mean the kids?
Yeah, the kids, yeah, yeah. So for them it was just a normal day, and then they were just going about playing around in the compound and such. And for the grown-ups, you can imagine it's a tragedy for them.